Welcome back to Authentic Talks. Do you know someone or are you having any issues with getting a good night's sleep? What about your children? Do you find yourself snoring? Do you find your family members snoring? Well, you guys, today is an awesome show because we have a guest today that actually suffered in silence with her children. They suffered from symptoms of undiagnosed sleep and breathing issues. She's going to talk with us today and let us know just how important sleep is to our mental health and so much more. She actually had one visit to a pediatric dentist, and this changed the trajectory of their lives. She was already a registered dental hygienist, but she trained, you guys, with amazing people. She trained with Sandra Holtzman, Lois, Laynee, and Sandra Holtzman, and they help her to establish orofacial myology knowledge. She is also now the author of Accomplished: How to Sleep Better, Eliminate Burnout, and Execute Goals. Please welcome Karese Laguerre to Authentic Talk. Authentic Talks is all about authentic conversations. This show is all about growth, love, respect, success, mind, body, and spirit. If you're looking to grow and become your authentic self, then this is the podcast for you. And I am your host, Shanta. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me, Shanta.
Thank you. I'm excited to have you because we're going to talk about a topic that many people don't really talk much about. We don't really have these conversations about sleep. So I'm super excited. Before we jump in, can I have you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Absolutely. So I am a myofunctional therapist. It's kind of like working with a personal trainer for all the muscles below your eyes, but above your shoulders. I work with all those muscles to help strengthen and coordinate them. That way we could get proper movement and muscle function for breathing, eating, and especially for sleeping.
Wow, that's really interesting. Like, what prompted you to go into this area of study or have an interest in it?
That's an awesome question. I love that one because it gives me a chance to talk about my children. So it was definitely my kids. They all had various issues. And as a mother of four, I had one boy and three girls, and everybody had some sort of something going on. That's one of the things that we don't talk about when we're parents, right? When people say, "How is everything?" You're usually like, "Good, everything's great." Or "How's little Johnny or Susie," or whatever your kid's name. Everybody just says everything is good. But the reality is that many of us struggle with things that we don't like to talk about. Like my son had ADHD and some behavioral problems. My daughter had every sleep issue under the sun, sleepwalking, sleep talking, bedwetting every single night until the age of 12, snoring, restless. She had everything. You name it, she had it. And my two youngest daughters had a lot of ear and throat infections, and it seemed like they were constantly sick. My profession really started out with registered dental hygiene. And I was working for a pediatric dentist who happened to be very, very into airway and focused on sleep. And so she heard about all these issues I was having with my children, and she kind of pinned it all back down to the way they were breathing and, how that was impacting and affecting their sleep. And so from there, I dove really, really deep in. And now I help not just my children, but hundreds of patients all over the world. It's a great field.
How important is sleep for us? How many hours should children be getting each night of sleep? And then how many hours for adults?
Okay, so I love this question as well. I think the way that we need to look at it is that sleep is critical for everybody, right? And the amount of sleep that is required is actually like an antiquated amount of sleep that, our lifestyles have changed dramatically. When they gave us the recommended 7 to 9 hours for adults, it was something that was researched and studied well before we were in all of these tech ages. So we want to think that it's really like the mid 20th century that they originally came up with this number of 7 to 9 hours of sleep. But we had a lot different stuff going on. We had less processed food. We had more activity, people doing a lot more hands-on work. We weren't sitting in front of screens. We weren't idle for most of the day back in those times. So now we've kind of condensed so much of our life and we're using so much less energy that It's really a spectrum because it's not how many hours you sleep, it's the quality of your sleep. So, not the quantity, but the quality is really important because you can be in bed and you can be cycling through all of your sleep stages, but not necessarily being in them the adequate amount of time. So I think that's the more important thing to talk about as opposed to how many hours you're actually in bed. Are you getting enough deep restorative sleep? Because that is the critical part for all of us.
So if someone is sleeping for like 9 hours and they wake up still feeling tired, is that because of the way that they were breathing through the night? Or
Absolutely. So when you are breathing and you're not breathing optimally during the night, what's going to happen is you're going to be functioning, your body will be functioning in hypoxia. Now, hypoxia just means low oxygen, right? But every single cell in our body requires this oxygen. It is essential in order to get these restorative functions. So your brain is actually in a higher rate of function when you're in your REM or your really deep dreaming restorative sleep stage. Your brain is ramped up and it's trying to get itself to eliminate a lot of the fluids that are excess waste because we have our way for our body to eliminate other fluids, right? We clean out our blood through the kidneys. We're able to use our endocrine system to clean out, we got lymphatic system and so forth to clean out, but our brain will only clean itself while we're sleeping. If you are in a state of hypoxia, your brain is not able to adequately do the same thing. So I like to liken it to a washing machine, right? So you load up the washing machine and you run the clothes in the washing machine and they all sort of start to stick to the sides and so forth. And so that would be a really good night of good sleep, right? But then the next night, you don't get as good sleep. So this is like you pushing in more clothes into the washing machine and trying to run it again. You're not going to get that same quality of clean as you would if you just ran it from an empty. It's much better for your brain function and so forth.
does snoring like have anything to do with like the way? Does that mean we're in a deeper sleep if we're snoring?
Snoring is something that's very common. And I think because it's common, people tend to think that it's normal. Now, what snoring actually is the sound of air meeting resistance as it is flowing through that passageway, right? So, as it's going through, because your nose and your mouth, everything's connected, right? So, as you're going through the airway, that the tissues are narrowing. They relax at night when we sleep, those soft tissues in the esophagus and the pharynx. They're going to relax. And as it's relaxing, you still want to have enough open passageway. But when you're hearing snoring, snoring is actually air not getting enough space to pass through. So it's squeezing itself through. You imagine the air is trying to get through a crowded space, it's trying to push through. So that snoring really doesn't tell what stage of sleep you're in as much as how much oxygen you are not getting in.
Oh, okay. So when someone is snoring, like one of the kids, is it better to wake them up so they could reposition themselves, or do you just let them snore and struggle?
That's a very good question. Sometimes with children, it can be a very delicate issue. So, if you have a child who is usually rolling around at night and has like that restless sort of sleep where they're kind of all over the bed, sometimes they fall out. Sometimes it's very much to do with positioning. Their body is trying to reposition itself to get optimal air. Now, in those instances, it might help if you prop the child up a little bit more so that they're not totally flat. Because when you're lying down flat, that does help the soft tissues fall backwards more. So, what we want to do is we want to fight against that. And so, you might want to put a couple of pillows under their head and have them sleep just a little bit higher. I wouldn't disrupt them and wake them up at that moment in time that you hear them snoring, but I would make adjustments the following night. And then I would also monitor it to see how often the snoring is happening. There are many different apps you can use. Snore Labs, a very popular one. You can always put it on one of the tablets. If your child has their own tablet, just leave the tablet running with the Snore Lab app on and it'll track that snoring for you at night. And then you can have something definitive to go to your child's pediatrician with your concerns about that level of snoring and whether or not you making that shift and changing them so that they're a little bit elevated, whether or not that helps.
That's interesting and good information to know. So, can you share with us, were your kids able to overcome like the sleepwalking and talking and your daughter?
Yes. So I am so happy to say that we overcame so much of that because a lot of it was very frustrating. The issues with my daughter and her sleep issues did get resolved. We did take her to get a sleep study. We did have to do myofunctional therapy, which is really going to strengthen all of those soft tissues so that she didn't have them be as relaxed and they were more toned and able to, sit better when she was able to lie down. She can keep an open airway without much of a struggle because of the therapy that we were doing. So, with the therapy, she did have a sleep study before and after. I'm happy to say she had mild sleep apnea and she no longer has sleep apnea. We did do a dental appliance as well, but we got over all of those hurdles. And so, I think it's a fantastic, happy ending to 10 years of struggles we had.
Well, that's good to hear. Can you walk us through what does a sleep study entail? Like, do you have to go to the facility and sleep or
So, sleep studies can actually be done one of two ways. One is an at home sleep study where you would put on the diagnostic materials on yourself and you would go to sleep in your own bed. People like that because it's more comfortable to be sleeping in your own bed. However, you're not monitored during that process, right? So, who knows what nodes you're putting on correctly? Who knows if the stuff is sitting on you correctly the whole night? Who knows what the quality of that reading is? So, it's a possibility you can do an at home sleep study. But really, I think the medical world would agree that the in lab sleep study is best. And they have comfortable beds. They put a whole bunch of nodes on you because they're measuring all sorts of things: your brain activity, your carbon dioxide intake, your oxygen intake, your heart rate. It's like an EKG at night, too, your snoring and any sort of movement and motion. They're measuring all sorts of things. So you'll have a whole bunch of things on you, and it looks incredibly uncomfortable. But once you get relaxed in that environment and you sleep, you get the most detailed, specific reading that you could possibly get. And that's going to give you the best, most accurate diagnosis.
that's good to know that you don't actually have to always leave your home because I know that there's different procedures that they will have you go through at different times, depending on a surgery that you may have. And for me, that was always one of my things was like, I don't want to really have to leave, home. But if you do, you just do. I have to share with you this. I get about 6 hours a night of sleep. And some days wake up and I'm very well rested and I feel like, oh, that was amazing. And then other times I'm like, oh, I'm dragging. And I feel like my body does this thing where it's like, you robbed me of sleep, so now we're gonna play catch up. You
Yes.
know?
It is a game of catch up that the body will try to do. However, you're always kind of falling behind, right? Like it's just like that washing machine example that I gave. You're just kind of stuffing in clothes. And you could take out all of those clothes after running multiple loads and, putting that thing to capacity. But the quality of those clothes as you put them in the dryer and move on, it's really lacking. So we don't like to have everything built up like that to then finally have a day where you recuperate everything. We really would like you to get a great night of sleep every single night. That way you could function and be at your most productive.
Yeah, that would be awesome to get that every night. Does what time we go to bed have anything to do with the quality of sleep that we get?
Yes. I think if you're not consistent with it, it can definitely create one of your biggest problems. Consistency is key. Our biological clock, that circadian rhythm, I know people talk about it a lot, but you're really never going to fully regulate it unless you are in some sort of routine and you set a standard. So if you're going to bed at 8 o'clock today, but you're going to bed at 1 a.m. tomorrow, and then the day after that, so when we have babies and small children, I think people talk a lot about routines and the importance of routines and having all of that together. But once we're adults, really, we still need a level of a routine because our bodies still need to regulate and know, okay, this right now is when we're starting to wind down. This is when we shut down. This is when we wake up and we start it all over.
Is there something that we can do for insomnia?
For insomnia, when you can't sleep. So when you can't sleep, I would say it's really important to look into what's going on as far as your environment. Sometimes people have a lot of dietary issues that might cause that insomnia. Our bodies have a lot of shutdown to do when we're going into this sleep state. From the transitory sleep stage 1 until stage 2 and 3, the body's starting to slowly shut down. But if you've eaten like right before bed, or you're having late night meals or late night snacks, the body can't really shut down that digestive system because you just have something that they still have to work on and digest. So sometimes the body is just keeping you awake because it can't fully wind down enough. Another reason why it's really important to have a routine. The insomnia can also be caused, so it's not just a dietary issue. It can also be something that you want to be on the lookout for as far as how are you monitoring your activity as far as your daytime. We really can't produce melatonin adequately if we are not regulating our light exposure. So our bodies will be less likely to fall asleep if we have a lot of blue light around us. And blue light, I think everybody seems to associate directly with electronics or television screen, but actually all LED light bulbs are pretty much unfiltered blue light. There aren't very many good incandescent bulbs available for sale, especially within the United States. They're actually not allowed. So if you're not regulating and kind of functioning in the dark, maybe by candlelight, or you get a good infrared bulb so that once it's dark and the sun has set, you are just functioning in a red or a very low orange light, you're going to have issues developing enough melatonin, and your body might just be awake anyway because you have your lights on in your room.
Oh, wow, that is interesting because I go to sleep to like a LED. I mean, it's on. And that's just good to know because maybe I should be turning that off. I know that you wrote a book. Can you share with us the name of the book? And then let's talk about like what was that process like for you with going through writing the book?
Thank you for mentioning it. I did write a book and I published it earlier this year. It's accomplished How to Sleep Better, Eliminate Burnout and Execute Goals. It was such a labor of love. It took a few years of me working with clients and really refining my process with this myofunctional therapy, getting over humps and hurdles with my own family, and then with several clients, detail various case studies, either with my children or some of the clients in the book. It was really just putting all those things together. When I do get asked about the book writing process, the process itself, I would say just start writing. If you are inclined at all to write a book, just start writing. Much of my stuff was not written in any sort of order. It was, I'm writing because this is what I'm seeing today. This is what I'm feeling today. This is what's going on today. And then I just order it afterwards. So I think the problem is everybody thinks that you have to start with page 1, like, okay, this is going to be the first sentence of the book, and I have to know exactly what's going to happen. All the way. Just write something, and then you'll put it in order however it's supposed to be after the fact.
And it took you some time because you really wanted to make sure that it was a quality book.
Exactly. Exactly. I had to follow my clients through all of the process and make sure that, we were getting the results that I want them to have, number one, but number two, that I definitely want to detail for others to be able to replicate. So I think the book is really great for that, for being able to follow these things.
If so, how can we find your book?
So Accomplished is available on Amazon. The Kindle version and the paperback version are both up on Amazon for sale. You really just look for Accomplished, how to sleep better, and it'll pop up.
Do you notice that when we exercise that we sleep better, or is that just our imagination?
So exercise can actually keep you a little bit more awake if you
Oh,
exercise right before bed. I mean, if you're running a 26-mile marathon, then sure, you might pass out right after and go to bed. But if you are just doing an at-home video and then you try to go to bed after, you'll notice that you don't get as good sleep. You're more amped up. You're a little bit more wired. Your body's on because you just did physical activity. So I wouldn't associate exercise and sleep per se, unless it is, you're going hard exercising 13 miles, you're running, or 26 miles, or you're really getting it in.
so it's better to exercise in the morning.
That's actually like a great thing to do first thing in the morning to just start your body up and get everything rolling again.
That sounds good. I noticed that on the days when I would exercise, you're absolutely right that it does you're exhausted, but mentally your mind is like, well, this is because I was so out of shape. When I first started back, I would find myself like, whoa, I'm so tired from the actual workout. But once you're showered and all of that, you're right. It's like your mind is like lit up. I do realize you're right. It's been a minute since I've actually gone to the gym because everything's been shut down. I'm trying to do some things where I'm moving right here in the house. So, what do you get to do for fun?
Fun. What is that?
Or what do you love to do for fun?
What do I like to do for fun? I don't get a lot of free time, honestly. Between running my practice and being a mom of four, I guess just spending time with my family. We're really big on games, actually. So I think that's what I do for fun. We play a lot of board games. It's a highly competitive household. You can imagine there's 6 of us here, my husband, I, and the 4 kids. And everybody's super competitive, whether it's Trivial Pursuit or it's Monopoly or it's the game of life. We're always playing something, and it's pretty competitive. A lot of trash talk in this house.
You said something that I totally missed. You said that you have your own practice?
Yes. Well, my myofunctional therapy. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I do practice myofunctional therapy within my own private practice. It's called the Myo Spot. And we see clients either in person if we're in the state of New Jersey, or mostly predominantly teletherapy. I've been seeing clients both all around the country and around the world, seeing some interesting international clients as well.
Oh, that's nice. So people can actually have you, like, you can help people. They don't necessarily have to be in the office.
Exactly. Exactly. A lot of
Yeah.
what we're doing, we're just strengthening all of these orofacial muscles. And so just being able to verbally give those cues for the exercises helps significantly.
That's interesting. This is the first time I've heard of this type of therapy.
You're not alone. And that was part of the reason why I wrote the book too. There's so many people that just are like, huh? Like myofunctional what? It's a very important therapy because you can overcome so many of the struggles, whether it's with sleep or even breathing. A lot of highly allergic or asthmatic people have had tremendous success after myofunctional therapy. It's a game changer, honestly, and it's not talked about enough. So that's part of the reason why I did write Accomplished to spread awareness.
Well, thank you for writing the book because I honestly, I do understand that sleep is important and that we really do need it and that the way we breathe and all of that does matter. But I never would have thought like that I could go see someone and talk about like how I'm sleeping and things like that. I
Yeah.
think it's really cool. It's to the
Thank
point
you.
where I actually was unsure of like what questions to even really ask where I could help the audience to really hone in and get that clear understanding of like how would they know that they really need to reach out to you or that they should.
Yes. Well, I think one of the key things is that you're waking up and you're not feeling well rested. We could also look at just the history of things. So a lot of children with ADHD, there's a very high correlation between ADHD and sleep issues. So most times there's so much overlap that ADHD, which we have to remember is not like a disease or something. So it's not like there's a definitive test in order to know that you have ADHD. It's more of a behavioral functioning type of thing. And many of those manifestations of ADHD are very similar manifestations, especially in children with sleep disorders. So we know that a good person to come see me is probably a child with ADHD, a child struggling with sleep and breathing issues, has a lot of snoring at night, or you hear them open breathing during the day, like those children that, that have the deep, heavy breath. And that's just them at rest. You want to be on the lookout for adults that feel tired through the day, a lot of fatigue and brain fog, and you just have to function on some sort of stimulant to get you through the day, like your, coffee, energy drink, and that's the only way you're going to make it through. Somebody who's definitely had issues with snoring. A lot of people honestly sometimes know that they have a small or narrow airway because they've had these crowded teeth and these small mouths. If you have difficulty at the dentist office doing dental x-rays, you most likely need myofunctional therapy. I think there's many different ways to know and determine, but a lot of it's going to function on how you are. Are you able to function properly? Is your breathing compromised in any way, shape, or form? Myofunctional therapy would be really good for you if those things are something that you're seeing and it resonates with you.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's good stuff. Good for us to know. So, if you and I could switch places, what question would you ask yourself that I did not ask you?
Question would I ask myself? How would people know that well, I mean, you can just go into different tips. I think that's a common question I get a lot. Like, what are different tips that I would have for people who are struggling with sleep that they can do at home? I think that's the main one that I haven't gotten at yet.
Can you leave us with some tips that people can implement in their life who are struggling with sleep?
Absolutely. So, one of the main tips that I would say is that you should definitely develop a consistent routine. Routine is everything. Your body is going to thank you for it immeasurably. The second thing I would say is that part of that routine should consist of some sort of nasal hygiene. Now, we think to clean our bodies every day and to shower, we wash our hair, we take care of our teeth and our mouth by brushing and mouthwash and so forth. But we never really think about this nose. And the nose is so critical because the nose is for breathing, like oxygen. We can't go any more than 3 minutes without oxygen. So we should be taking care of our main oxygen uptaker, right? So our nose, we want to make sure that we're cleaning it out with a saline rinse every night and that you're able to get the optimal breathing space through the nose. So if you struggle with that breathing through your nose at night, I would definitely say you should use a Breathe Right strip over the nose to help lift up the sides of the nasal passages. And that'll help you get more air. Or if you don't like the strips on the outside of the nose, you can always insert the nasal dilator. They're like these small little tubes that just help keep the actual nostril open. That way you're getting optimal air. So you're prepping your body to receive oxygen optimally. The last thing I would say that you should definitely do is take note of your environment as you're going down to bed. Make sure that you are in a nice, quiet environment. Take conscious note of your breathing. Conscious breathing is one of the most beneficial things that we can do for ourselves. What's really important with conscious breathing is making sure that your breathing is quiet, that you're able to control it, and that you are feeling that you're getting a good breath in and an adequate breath out. I think that those 3 tips will help you get started on a lifetime of really good sleep.
That's good stuff.
It's incredibly important.
Wow, that's good to know. I have a son that has a lot of allergies, and he's constantly like, his nose is always itching. And one day he said to me and my husband, he says, when I breathe in, he says, it's like I smell mucus.
Ah.
And I was like,
got to clear all that out, I would really recommend that you use a saline rinse that has xylitol in it. Xylitol is like a sugar alcohol. It's sort of like an artificial sweetener too, but it's really good up the nose because it'll go there. It'll clean out everything and it won't feel as yucky as just plain saline does. So I would say definitely go in there with one that has xylitol in it. Clear makes one, but that's XLEAR, not C. It's XLEAR. Makes a really, really good xylitol nasal rinse.
And those are things that you can buy over the counter?
Yep, you can buy it over the counter. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it.
Yeah, Amazon has definitely become the new one-stop shop, I guess, because Walmart was that for a lot of people, and they just kind of took over.
Yes, yes. Can you see where our future is going? It's so crazy because you think about all these big box stores that used to be like, the big thing, like your Macy's, your Lord and Taylor's. And now, none of that stuff is really what it used to be. And in the future, I predict Walmart is going to be one of those things that we're like, oh, remember Walmart?
I know that I received an email that said Dillard's was going out of business. And so they were selling everything, including the clothing racks and the shelving and all of that. And I was like, wow. But I stopped going to the mall some time ago.
Same here. I have like no reason to go to the mall. And I think that's part of the problem is that we're not there anymore. Like nobody's shopping. Everybody is online. All you have to do is click and you can add it to your cart. I mean, who needs much more than that?
You're right.
Yeah.
And that's why I felt like throughout COVID-19, although I know there were many people that lost their jobs, for us, I felt like it just felt like it was a way for us to get closer as a family. We've even gotten a little more sleep because we're always home.
Exactly. That's been part of the beautiful upside of this thing is that many of us have gotten to really connect with some of our family. The unfortunate side of it, though, is that some people aren't connecting with their family. They can't fly across the country, or if they do, it's a question about safety or so forth to see certain family members. And so people also have been a little bit more distant. I think some of this has actually added more stress onto a good portion of the population, especially with the unemployment rate and issues with whether or not there's going to be a stimulus and mortgages and so forth. And everybody's worried about their future. So that probably has helped to compromise some sleep in some people. And I would definitely say that for them, I think it's really, really important if you're struggling with sleep during this time, because now as big a time as any, it's critical to get really good sleep, because if your brain is not functioning optimally, you're more prone to having those mental health challenges. You're more prone to depression when you get a lack of sleep. Sleep deprivation has definitely been researched and it's been defined by the CDC as a national epidemic. Depression is definitely one of the big things that it does contribute to, in addition to heart disease and diabetes and several other things. But to keep your mind functioning in tip-top shape, we've got to focus on really, really good sleep. So I would definitely encourage everybody to follow as many good sleep tips as you can. Get consistent with your routine, clean out your nose, make sure that you're aware of your breathing and that you're able to breathe properly. And if you are not, and if you're still struggling, I would encourage you, for the sake of your own life and well-being and the longevity of such, to seek out help.
Wow, that's good stuff. And if someone wanted to seek out help and they wanted to have you to assist them, how can they contact you?
They can always contact me through my private practice webpage. I do free consultations. It's www.myospot.com, themyospot.com. You can go online and you can book a free consultation with me directly from the website. Hopefully it's convenient for you. It's convenient for me. And we get together and we talk about how I can best assist you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on the show and talking with me.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karese, for coming on Authentic Talks. I really appreciate you dropping those tips for the listeners.